I was dropped from 4 record deals before I had my first hit song as a songwriter. I have songs with like 300 million streams, and I've maybe made like $7,000 on that. We wrote Issues the day that Sorry went #1. Good Luck Babe is maybe my only hit I've ever had that I can really relate to. I had one hit at that point. I had Fall Out Boy's Centuries, but like the money hadn't showed up for that song yet. I was still so broke. I was living in a 2-bedroom house with 6 people, and I was like, we're not canceling.
Welcome to my new podcast. And on this episode, I have an incredible songwriter with me, the songwriter of the year and of our times, I would say, Justin Tranter.
That is way too sweet, but thank you. Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here, or actually that you have me in your incredible house today. This is
welcome.
Unbelievable. Anyone who doesn't know Justin Tranter, you might know the song that is nominated for Song of the Year and Record of the Year, Good Luck Babe, and one of my favorite songs. Well, you wrote that song with Chaperone.
With Chapo and Dan Nigro, yep. Wrote it like, I want to say like November 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then didn't hear anything about it, and it wasn't on her album, but we were still friendly and everything was great and would invite her to all my parties.
It wasn't on the record. That is shocking.
Yeah, it wasn't on the record, but I get, basically they just didn't finish it in time. They couldn't figure out what key to put it in because it's the range of that vocal is insane.
It's like 2-3 octaves.
It's just stupid. She's so talented. And so they couldn't like figure out what key to put it in. And then, so they didn't finish it in time. So it didn't make the record, but thank goddess it didn't make the record, because then when it came out as a standalone, like 6 months later, it's the song that sort of cracked everything open. I think if it wasn't a standalone, I think people would have still loved it, but I don't know if it would have became the hit that it was, because it wouldn't have gotten the spotlight that it deserved.
How did it start? Who had the initial spark for this song?
Just sort of was hanging out in Dan's studio. There's like a kitchen area, and we were all just talking, and Chapel was catching me up on her personal life. I hadn't seen her in a couple months, and a very universal queer experience is falling in love with someone who you know is in love with you, but they are not ready to accept that because they haven't accepted that part of themselves yet. Wow. So we were just sort of commiserating about that feeling, because that was basically how I spent all of my teens and 20s in dating. And so luckily I'm a lot older now, and I haven't had that experience in a very long time, but could really relate to what Chapel was talking about. And so we were like, well, we have to just write about that. We have to.
Is it about a particular experience? Is like something you've gone through?
Very. I went through experiences like that at least 3 or 4 times in my 20s.
And she just went through one of those.
It was happening while we were writing it. Wow. So for her, it was a very fresh wound. Yeah. And then as she talks about, as the song kind of went on, it became like a letter to herself of like, live your fucking truth. Like, don't end up like one of those people who, when you wake up next to him in the middle of the night and you're nothing more than his wife. Yeah. It was when we wrote it to start, it was about someone that she had feelings for, but as she's gone on to perform it, it also feels like a mantra to herself of like, live in your truth now.
I love it. It's sad and tragic and uplifting at the same time.
So sad and so tragic. And yet I was like at a dance party last week, and it came on and everyone was dancing, and I was like, I don't think you should be dancing to this, but I'm so glad they are.
How did you pull that off? Like a sad tragic dance song that is uplifting.
It's pretty.
If an A&R would come to you, please write me a sad tragic uplifting dance
you
song.
Say fuck you, get the fuck out of here. When we wrote it, when I first started working with her in early 2022, maybe late 21, I can't remember exactly, but she had been dropped from Atlantic, and I just thought she was so amazing. So
you worked with her after she was dropped?
Yeah, well, she was fully unsigned, and I just didn't care.
I mean, that speaks for you. That's incredible, because a lot of writers, like if they're dropped, then no, it's toxic. We're gonna only work with artists that the labels believe in.
I was dropped from 4 record deals before I had my first hit song as a songwriter. So I think the people who are dropped are probably the coolest people in the business.
Maybe because they have too much of a vision of their own and it doesn't match with the vision of the label that usually wants to, oh, this is number 1 right now, please write something like that.
Yeah. No, I think, for me being dropped was such a gift. Like, I'm so glad that I was dropped so many times.
I met you when you were at Interscope, right?
Yeah, I was at Interscope. And then I think I was dropped shortly after. And then we were signed to Epic for a second. But yes, when I met you, when we wrote together, it was Interscope.
Right. And you were in a band, Semi-Precious Weapons.
I sure was.
And I think the band was so amazing.
Thank you.
I love the image.
Thank
and
you.
I love the music. And I think you're such a star.
That's very sweet. Thank
you.
Do
you not miss being on stages? And
no, well, performing is so beautiful and I'm so grateful for the time I spent doing it. But I have 2 nodes on my vocal cords.
Oh.
Which is part of the reason why my voice sounds so cool.
It does.
Anytime I'm in like the above an E to like this range.
Yeah.
There's this rasp comes through that was not there when I was a kid. It's there because of vocal damage.
Oh my God.
So on
Don't
record,
say that too loud because some singers might want to then have some surgery.
Please
so you
do
get
not
these
damage your vocal
tones.
cords. But it works really great now to sing demos for other people, to sing background vocals. That broken texture actually really sounds really good on record.
Mm-hmm.
But touring is not sustainable.
Yeah.
So touring just got to be so stressful and heartbreaking for me because I couldn't talk during the day.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to literally the only time I would make noise is I'd warm up for 20 minutes to a half an hour before the show.
Wow.
And then I would do the show and then I wouldn't talk. So the only time I was making sound was 20 minutes before the show and on stage. And it's just that's not a way to live.
So it's a relief.
It's a relief.
Yeah.
So when I found a way to make music that the whole world could hear and make a beautiful living that I'm very, very grateful for and not have to tour, I was like, fuck yeah, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So it was, and also, but when we were dropped from our 4th record deal, I was 33.
Mm-hmm.
When I met you, I think I was 29, 30. It was already, there is no such thing as age and chasing your dreams. However, the stamina required to tour, the stamina required to do promo, it is a young person's game. So when we were dropped from our final deal at Epic at 33, I was just like, this doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah. So I love performing, but I'm very grateful to be where I am now. It's a much...
Look at you now.
Look at me now, baby.
Can't say that often enough. Are you the kind of vindictive kind, or are you just happy? Like anyone who said no to you on your long way up, you don't hold grudges, do you?
No regret. I don't really hold... There aren't too many grudges. There's only a couple people actively tried to ruin my career. I do.
Those
I still have
a place in hell for you.
I still have grudges towards them, but that's 3 people max.
Okay. We're not gonna name names now.
No, a manager, an old manager who stole money. Of course, I still have grudges towards that because we were already. There was no money to steal, but whatever there was, he stole.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, those. But for the most part, I'll never forget when we were signed to Interscope, as we already mentioned. And then dropped. And then a lot of my first success, my first hit was with Fall Out Boy and they were on Island. But then
crazy song, and I want to talk about that in a minute too. But
please.
Keep going.
All the Selena Gomez stuff, that's Interscope. Imagine Dragons, Interscope. Gwen Stefani, Interscope. And I'll never forget when we were going to do a session for, I can't remember if it was for Selena or Gwen. It was Selena.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to be in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the Interscope office that used to be Ron Fair's office and studio. And Ron Fair's the one who signed my band.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Ron Fair. And he didn't drop us. He left the company and then we got dropped after that. So only love for Ron.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, someone said, are you okay to work in that studio or is it going to be weird for you?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I am just so happy to have another chance. At the music business. I'm so happy to have success that I can't wait to write in that room. How cool. The office that Ron believed in me, but the person who took over his office did not believe in me.
Mhm.
So to go to that office and write hits, and we did. I wrote Hands to Myself, Selena Gomez in that room.
I love that song.
Thank you.
That song, it's like an art piece, I feel.
Well, that's very sweet. But yeah, it wasn't the first day I wrote in that room as a songwriter, but it was like, I think the first week, it was like the
How did
second
that come about?
day.
It's so sexy, and it feels like very innovative. Like it feels like future music. At the time, it felt like, oh my God, I've never heard anything like this.
Well, thank you very much. It came from, one, the main lyric, always have to give credit where credit's due, can keep my hands to myself, came from Julia, who I think she's told the story, so I don't think I'm spilling tea, but she'll forgive me even if I am.
That's fine. Good stories, you got to tell them over and over.
Well, I don't want to tell her personal story, but I think she's told it. So I'm okay to reiterate it. But
I compare it when we interview her.
Yeah. There was somebody in our work life, and this person knows the story, so it's okay, who like she was very attracted to. But we're in a work setting, and so she's a responsible human being. She's an ethical human being.
Yeah.
So she never acted on those feelings. But so the song is about, I can't keep my hands to myself. Like
It's the sexual tension in this
She
song.
wanted to fuck somebody real bad, but she was like, I can't ruin the working relationship, so I'm not going
Which
to.
is smart. It's
very smart. So that's where that main lyric came from, is that she was really feeling that sexual tension. And then sort of the pre-chorus vibe comes from like definitely like my love of like alternative 90s music. And there was like the snare drum is actually, all the Swedes, they use snooze, like the tobacco pouches that you put in your mouth. The cancer stuff. The snare drum is actually like a snooze canister.
Oh, wow.
On like the desk of that office studio I was talking about.
That's great.
So yeah, that's
put it to good use.
That's where that song came. Yeah, put those cancer pouches right to use. Yeah.
And so you did a bunch of Selena Gomez songs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's one of my favorite artists to collaborate with. She's so honest and truthful, even if it's something sexy, like Good For You or Hands to My, whatever. She's just like, I think because she's such a great actress, which is so cool to see the world respect her as the actress she is these last couple years. She's getting Oscar buzz right now. Crazy. It's so amazing, so deserved. She's such a great storyteller that like even on Hands to Myself, where we just kept saying, no, sing quieter. Like, and then you really like, she's still such a good actress that even though she's barely singing, except the pre-chorus she opens up, but that's the intention. That's what we wanted.
No, it works. It works so well on that song.
Just, you feel like all the sexual tension through every syllable because she's such a great storyteller.
And Cake by the Ocean. I want to hear that story too.
Okay. So Cake by the Ocean, one of my favorite songs. I think of a lot of my hits, that's like most my personality.
Great.
Which was, but very much inspired by Joe Jonas, who sings the song, his personality as well. So we had done 2 or 3 days with Joe, me, Joe, Matt Mann, Robin, and another songwriter. And the other songwriter and Joe, just like the vision wasn't seen eye to eye. They weren't locking in. And so the other songwriter was like, yeah, I'm not coming tomorrow. This just clearly isn't connecting. And so Matt Mann and Robin were like, oh, should we cancel? And I was like, fuck no. I had one hit at that point. I had Fall Out Boy's Centuries.
Yeah.
But like the money hadn't showed up for that song yet. I was still so broke. I was living in a 2-bedroom house with 6 people.
Wow. And
I was like, we're not canceling.
Were they all musicians?
They were like 3 of them were members of my band.
Oh, wow.
And so even though the band was over, our friendship was still great. We all lived
while
together.
it's really cramped, those are probably some really inspiring times too. And
Very
you learn a lot and those commune living style situations could be the best times ever in some ways.
Yeah. Well, also I think just like of course we shouldn't encourage people like making art out of like desperation, but I do think
it makes the best art.
For me, at least, it did really push me. So in this situation where everyone else was like, should we just cancel?
Yeah.
I was like, fuck no, I'm broke. This is Joe Jonas. Like he was headlining arenas a couple years ago. fuck no.
And the Jonas Brothers had times when their currency was like way down. Nobody wanted to work with them after that.
And I was just like, no, this guy's he was headlining arenas. Why would we say no? Let's go.
He can do it again.
Said to Matt, Man, and Robin, I was like, let's go tomorrow and let's just have fun. Like, I've gotten to know Joe a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's really goofy and he's really hot. So let's just write like a goofy sex song.
Uh-huh.
So came in the next day and like kind of like said to Joe, same thing I said to Matt, Man, and Robin the night before. Like, let's just have fun. Let's be ridiculous. And so the riff in that song is when Matt, Man, and Robin met in high school when they were 16.
Uh-huh.
And they decided they were going to be producers at 16. And that was like the first riff they ever wrote together.
Oh.
And so 10 years later, maybe 11 years later, I can't remember how old they were when we wrote that song, but when I was like, let's just have fun. Like, who cares? Let's just have a goofy, fun day.
Uh-huh.
They were like, well, we have this riff we wrote when we were 16. And I was like, that is a really fucking
such a cool riff.
Hooky riff. Great.
And then you top that with the lyric.
And then
everyone was wondering, what does it mean?
Yeah. And what it really, we made it mean something very sexual, but it really just came from like when I was telling Matt, Man, and Robin, like, we cannot cancel the session.
Yeah.
We were sitting at Shutters, a hotel in Santa Monica on the beach,
beautiful hotel,
eating cake.
Oh. So it's really just Cake by the Ocean. I thought it's something else.
Well, we turned it into like something sexual.
That's kind of disappointing.
But literally it was like, let's just write, let's be
Cake
absurd
by the Ocean.
and just write a song called Cake by the Ocean.
Oh my God.
And then they're like, what does it mean? I was like, I'll fucking make it up. So we just did that. And it was one of the more fun days I've ever had in the studio. Matt, Man, and Robin were so inspired that like even after Joe left, we all stayed into the studio till like midnight and they played every instrument on it and we just kept going and had a blast and never in a million years thought that it would be the first single or a single at all.
I felt it brought him back, if I can say that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think you can say that. He would agree. I mean, he hadn't done anything, you know, it was so, but you know, he's at Republic, you know, now that the brothers are back together, they're still at Republic, but Wendy Goldstein is such a visionary. I think one of the best A&Rs in music business history that I had met her, but I didn't really get to know her yet. And so I think if it was at any other label, they would have heard a song called Cake by the Ocean and be like, that's not a single.
Yeah.
Like, that's fun, you guys. Sure, it'll be a fun album cut, but fuck no. But Wendy's such a visionary and so awesome that she heard it and she's like, it's the best song. That's the first single. And then it was stuck in like the 30s at radio for like 2-3 months. Like it just wasn't growing. And then we got a Sprint commercial because the first lyric of the chorus is "Talk to me, baby."
Yeah.
And so since, thank God, the lyric said "Talk to me, baby," because someone who works for Sprint was like, "Ooh, talk to me." That's like, you can talk on the phone, whatever. And so then the Sprint commercial happened and then the song just blew the fuck up.
Yeah. That's an incredible song. I love that song.
Thank you very much. I love
and then
that song.
another great one, Issues.
Thank you.
I mean, how did that come about?
Issues came
about.
And
also, maybe you can, I mean, Julia Michaels is someone you've
very
teamed up and you just decided, okay, the two of us are going to do everything together from now on, right?
Yeah, we did. I would say from like, we met in 2000, very late 2013, and we loved writing together. So we'd do like 1 or 2 days a week, just writing for pitch. And then people started to cut songs and we were realizing that like, we would both get songs cut with other collaborators, but there was something happening with our songs. So we just focused in even more.
So how do you work with each other?
With Julia,
which roles do you take? And
yeah, with her, I write like so even though she is an artist now, obviously, and Issues was her song, her first single as an artist. With her, even when we were writing for other people, she always writes like she's the artist. It was, especially in that time. She was so young and her emotions were so raw. So whether it was fun and sexy or whether it was heartbreaking, she was feeling every emotion at 1,000. And we would write like the first session we had together, I could tell, I suggested the title was a song called Sick of This that Rita Ora and Calvin Harris cut. It was for an album that they were doing together, but then they broke up, so the song just went into the abyss. But it was like we wrote it on a Tuesday, and like they were working on it in London on a Thursday. Like it happened really quick. Our first song, but I came in with the title "Sick of This," and it was like a pretty typical concept that I presented. Like, sick of this. Like we're so great together, I'll never get sick of this. Or the sex is so good, I'll never get sick of this. Whatever I presented, and she was like, "What if it's like this relationship is so fucked up that I'll never get sick of it because the highs are so high and the lows are so low. And the drama is so dramatic and the good times are so good." And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing.
That is amazing."
And then she got so nervous to write with somebody new. She like had her posse at the time, but wanted to try new people. But she was so nervous to write in front of me that then so she took my title and literally asked the producer, we were in like some shitty apartment in North Hollywood, asked him if she could go into the closet.
Wow.
And so she went and sat in the closet, and me and this producer had worked together a bunch. And we're looking at each other like, what the fuck is going on? Is this girl insane?
You've just been Julia Michaels.
Like, what is she doing in the closet? And then she like opens the door and is like, "Okay, I think I have something," and saying like one of the best melodies you've ever heard with my title like stuck into it. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be great. But it was very clear she needed at that time of her life, she needed to write about her life, else the song was not going to happen. Which I thought was amazing. And so even though she had no interest in being an artist at that point, I could tell this is an artist, and she has to write like an artist does. Like, this is my story, else why write the song? So that's our roles in that are that I just help her tell whatever story she wants to tell. And I help gather her ideas. I help her finish the ideas when she's stuck. I check the melodic math to make sure that all the ideas that she wants to get across are actually being served properly. And then like the super weird lyrical stuff, like in Hands to Myself, like metaphorical gin and juice. That's very much like a my brain. So that's our roles together, is that I'm there to help her execute her vision, and then like make sure that her melodies are as good as they can be, push her, organize, tweak, and then lyrically just insert my weird glam rock brain into her pop brain.
It's a really great song.
Thank you.
Two other songs I want to quickly mention, just Sorry with Bieber. I mean, it's a big song. And maybe you want to quickly, just a few words about that one.
Yeah, sure. So Sorry was me and Julia again, and we were writing with Haley Steinfeld that whole week during the day, where we wrote songs like Love Myself, which was Haley's first single, and Rock Bottom. And anyway, and then we got asked to come in by Josh Goodwin, who's like Bieber's right-hand creative guy. I think he still is, but he definitely was for a very long time. I haven't checked in a couple years, but I think he still is. But he was like, "Hey, like if you guys are free anytime this week, come in. I have a couple tracks that Bieber loves if you want to write to them." So we went on one night and wrote a song. And then the next night, Julia was tired as fuck. And she was like, Pooh Bear is going to do the whole album. Pooh Bear is an amazing songwriter. Like, Pooh Bear's killing the Bieber sound right now. Like, we're wasting our time. And I was, same thing. Like, no, I'm broke. We're going.
That's our chance.
And so we went we're just listening to tracks, and we heard those gorgeous chords in the track, and we're very inspired by those chords. The track was different, but the chords that are in the song we all know were in the track, and those chords were very simple but really inspiring. And we sort of just imagined, there was the macro idea, and the macro idea that I was like, if Justin Bieber has a song called Sorry, at that point, he had gotten in like a lot of like tabloid trouble.
Yes.
And the press was, being hard on young famous people, the press should be like arrested for it. Like
Yeah.
being that famous and that young is not natural. But anyway, so he was like, whether like egging houses and speeding tickets and whatever the fuck. So I just thought on the macro level, Justin Bieber, sorry, like that felt powerful to me. But on the micro level, apologizing to the world for being famous is not relatable. So let's make the song about a breakup, apologizing to an ex, that way the whole world can relate to that. And so Julie and I just sort of like wrote like things that we wish our exes would say to us. And we wrote it in probably like 40 minutes.
Wow.
Max. And, I had to like get in there and cut up the track because it was just, some random track to like build the structure that we were hearing.
Yeah.
And then Julia cut the demo. And we knew we wanted, because it was the era of like the big instrumental drop.
Yes.
Like, so the sonic, so we knew we wanted some sort of big sonic explosion.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really built into the track yet. So we felt good about the song, but without that sort of sonic explosion, we couldn't really tell if it was great or not.
Right. Yeah.
So we're like, okay, cool. Yep. See you tomorrow. And then like a couple weeks later, Skrillex gets our numbers from somebody.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I produced with Blood Pop, who did the original track. I produced this song. It's going to be Bieber's single.
Nice.
Come listen to it.
Yeah.
Which would be exciting if that happened right now. When that happened 9 years ago or 10 years ago, I was like the coolest thing that could ever happen to me. And it still would be cool now.
Yeah, it's still cool now.
Yeah. So, that's the story of that one. And with Issues,
yes,
we wrote Issues the day that Sorry went number one.
Wow.
And a person Julia was dating at that time, was too young to be able to like process and celebrate her success. So was being pretty shitty to her on like the most exciting day of her life. And so that inspired Issues.
So, all right, let's talk about other things.
Yeah, of course.
You have started a label.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
I would love to. So, right before COVID, which is the perfect time to start a business.
Yeah.
I just, I wanted to start a publishing company and a label.
Yes.
I feel like this business is so gross that if I could have create like a small, tiny
safe haven
for artists that I think are amazing, that I just thought that felt inspiring. And like I mentioned before, I don't miss performing, but I do miss when you're in a band or you're the pop star, you get to think about all of it. You think about the video, think about the marketing plan, think about the single rollout, think about the social media.
And you have a very different relationship with the artist, actually. You're going on a journey together.
Yeah, it's like you get to really build something with somebody. So I was just missing like that whole part, of being the artist. And so just thought that that'd be a really great thing to do. And it has been great. And it's also realizing how hard it is. I have a lot more respect for labels now. Like this is so, breaking artists is so hard. I also, and I don't regret it for 1 second, I have signed some of the most talented people I've ever met. The talent is so high, and their desire for self-promotion is not, it's not this. So and I'm never giving up on them. I'm going to keep fighting for them as long as they want to do it. But realizing, like it's 50-50, you know, like you have to. So it's funny. It's like, I'm learning like, the only thing what I'm bad at being a label executive is that I'm just signing the most talented people I've met. Not the most like shameless self-promoters.
Right. You feel an obligation then to deliver,
I want to their talent deserves to be heard by the whole world. So then I find myself like having those internal thoughts of like the executives we make fun of like, post more, please post more. Like, don't say it, Justin, don't say it. But I want to say it because your songs are so good.
Yeah,
and
be outrageous, create viral moments.
Yeah,
you can do it.
It's like I like catch myself having those thoughts and sometimes even saying them, and I'm like, no, take it back. But it's hard, right? Because I believe in them so much. So I'm definitely not giving up on my label journey by any means, but definitely I have a lot more respect for labels.
And
now.
you're also dabbling a bit in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I'm working with Google. So they approached me to talk about to look at their music AI thing.
Did you sign the NDA?
I know there's things I'm allowed to talk about.
Oh, good.
And I was very skeptical and was like, fuck this. This is insane. But then was talking with some friends of mine who are not in music, and they were like, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it is.
So if someone's asking you to be a part of the conversation, they can Google you. They know how vocal you are about songwriters' rights. They know how much you care about the craft of songwriting and performing. Like, they're asking you for a reason. So I went and I just agreed to like one session. And I was so brutal in that session about my fears for how this would I only cared about songwriters' rights.
Yeah.
Because for me, everyone's obsession with, is that Adele's voice or not? Well, Adele can tell you if she sang it.
Yeah.
And if she didn't sing it, she can either decide, delete that fucking thing or pay me. It's up that's like the main AI conversation. I'm like, that's like the easiest thing to solve. Can the internet please stop obsessing over Drake's voice?
Yeah.
Drake can say, I sang that or I did it. Yeah. And then he can decide if they're allowed to keep it up or not.
Yeah.
Where I get concerned is if you type in to any of these AI systems, I want a song that sounds like Selena Gomez, Hands to Myself, meets Imagine Dragons' Believer.
Yeah.
If what happens in there with those two songs to create something good that someone is monetizing, I need to be paid twice because I co-wrote Believer and Hands to Myself.
That's a scary thing. I mean, those algorithms now, they create things that some of them are really good.
Yeah. So in that first session with them, I really expressed all my concerns and I did not hold back. And I was like, they're never going to want to talk to me again. They're not going to care. They're going to just be like, oh, well, this person's insane. And it was the opposite. They loved how brutal I was being. They loved how concerned I was. And so they like did a whole deal with me to like really come in and not only consult to make the product effective, but to make sure that I was thinking of any time that it could be infringing on a songwriter's rights and flagging that.
Yeah.
So Google, I can't speak for any other companies, but Google is not going to release this product or monetize this product until they can figure out how to take care of all of us.
So would it then be proportionally based on the search words? Like,
yeah, I mean, that they have to figure that out. That's way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But yes, they're not going to release anything and they're not going to monetize anything until there's a way for all of us to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Which is going to take them years to figure that out. And they're prepared for that. So it was what I also love too was seeing that there are moments where it can be a great tool for us and it can be most importantly a great inspiration tool. But also that like it still really requires a human taste level.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Yeah, I think SZA is one of the best songwriters of our time. Like you can't. AI is never gonna write lyrics that specific, that raw. It's just not.
Yeah. I want to switch gears for a moment.
Please, yeah.
So I read on your Wikipedia that 30 years it's 30 years now that you came out.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, anniversary.
Yeah, it is yeah, you're right. Yes.
I'd love to talk about that moment and how you felt around that time.
Yeah, I am very lucky that I came out of the closet when I was 14, but that's just because that's when I started having like puberty. so before that, I always knew that I was different and cooler than most people I went to school
Still are.
Thank you. I always knew that I was different, and I luckily always viewed that as a good thing. And so I never would really change who I was. I would never hide parts of my personality. I would never. So I kind of was never in the closet, but I came out officially because I was going through puberty and was like, oh, that's what these feelings mean.
And your parents were good with it?
My parents were great with it. You know, my mom was just really afraid because I was already getting bullied so bad that she's like, well, now that if you're going to like own this and admit this to the world, like her just fear, she was not encouraging me to stop. She was not encouraging me to hide or lie. But there was just justifiable fear that the bullying would get worse. And it did. But then luckily, my parents, I had friends from theater camp who were going to an arts high school in the city of Chicago called the Chicago Academy for the Arts. And I wanted to always go since I was like in 6th grade. But I grew up way outside of the city, like across the street from a pig farm, you know? So the thought of me taking a train an hour into the city and an hour home every day, my parents were like, that for a 14-year-old, that seems risky. But then when the bullying got so bad and like physically dangerous, and the school wouldn't protect me at all because it's 94 and they would tell me it's my fault and all that shit, who cares? But so my parents were like, oh, it'll be much safer to put you on a train than it will be to stay in this fucking shitty ass public school.
Pig farm town.
So I then got to go to this amazing high school starting the 2nd semester of my freshman year. So then I was like in heaven, and there was kids who were openly gay. There was kids who were transitioning genders. There were teachers who were openly queer. It was racially diverse, financially diverse. My major was musical theater, but you could major in visual art. You could major in creative writing. Like it was like 140 of the coolest kids who we were all outcasts in our normal schools, and then got to come to this school and be like, you know, the cool kids.
What were the songs at the time that helped you through this and inspired you?
I was really obsessed with pretty much any woman who wrote a song in the 90s. So, I mean, my favorites, to just narrow the list down, but Courtney Love, you know, Hole, her band Hole, Tori Amos, Ani DeFranco, was a big No Doubt fan. That was more
and
like...
then you got to work with her
I
as
did
well.
get to work with Gwen. It was crazy. And I got to work with Courtney Love. And, but yeah, so those were like the main... Paula Cole was a big one because her music was so theatrical. So being like a theater kid who was transitioning into songwriting. Paula Cole was like that perfect balance. Tori Amos is pretty theatrical as well. So those were like my favorites. Patty Griffin. Just these women sort of like being as dramatic or as fabulous or as angry as they wanted to be. Alanis Morissette, obviously.
Crazy,
but that kind of goes without saying. She was garbage. I mean, the list goes on. It was just such an amazing time for these huge female pop stars, but they were all like different versions of alternative singer-songwriters. It was a really amazing era of music for someone like me. It was like perfect timing.
What are like dreams of yours that you haven't lived yet?
Dreams of mine that I haven't lived yet. I'm working on a couple musicals. But to have a show go to Broadway would of course be a complete dream come true.
Would you want to be in it?
No. I am.
You're done with stage?
Well, I am working on a show. I did perform in it. It's called The Great Thirst. I did it at this theater festival in Aspen in September.
Oh, can we see it in LA as well?
Eventually, we're gonna do like a concept album first. That I'll sing like half of it, and then there'll be other people singing the other roles. But that's not like a Broadway musical.
And you wrote part of it?
I wrote all of it.
Wow. Amazing. No, I want to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote all the lyrics, co-wrote the music, wrote the script myself.
Incredible.
And it went really well.
Is it an autobiographical story?
It's inspired by my family, but it's post-apocalyptic. So
Wow.
the apocalypse hasn't happened yet, even though I think we're close. But it's very much inspired by my mom, dad, me, and one of my brothers. I have 3 older brothers. This is inspired by one of them.
Are they very supportive of you, your other brothers?
2 of them are not. 2 of them don't speak to me, which is honestly fine.
That's crazy.
It's a long story.
It's their loss.
And then my oldest brother lives here in LA now, so we're very close. My parents are very supportive. So to have a musical. So The Great Thirst, the show that I'm in, that I will perform in, that's not meant for Broadway. It's way too edgy and weird, and the music is way too progressive, and it's like alternative raw. It's way too much for Broadway.
Yeah.
But I am working on a couple other projects that I do think will work great on Broadway if we get there. But
anything you want to talk about?
There's one show I can talk about. The other 2 haven't been announced yet, and they're tied to 2 humongous pieces of IP that existed way before I was born. So I have no right to talk about them until
that's resolved.
The families / companies announce it.
Yeah.
They have to announce it first. It's their IP, not mine. But the one that I am allowed to talk about is called Lavenders, and we're doing a reading / concert at there's an amazing venue at the LGBT Center here in Hollywood. There's like a really nice theater in there, like 100.
What's it called?
The show's called Lavenders.
And that's the venue?
Oh, the venue. I'm blanking on the name of the theater, but it's in the LGBT Center.
Yeah, let me know.
And I'll be posting about it.
Yeah,
so
if I can go, I'd love to see
you
it.
have to come, please.
Great.
But it's inspired by, there was the secret society in Hollywood in the 20s and 30s called the Sewing Circle, which was this like secret lesbian society of a lot of really famous women are rumored to be a part of it. From Greta Garbo to Tallulah Bankhead to Alla Nazimova, she was sort of like the ringleader of this.
Yeah.
So it's very loosely based, really just inspired by this sort of lesbian community in like Hollywood in the 20s and 30s. So that show we're gonna do a reading / concert version here in LA on January 25th. So that one I can talk about, but the other 2 I wish I could talk about because it's really exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now that you can pretty much buy whatever you want, what do you spend your money on?
Food for my friends. I love to take my friends to nice dinners. Trips for my family and friends.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main thing. I don't know how to drive, so there's no cars to collect. I was doing a jewelry thing for a while, but then I was robbed.
Oh no, that's terrible.
So that we don't need to get into that. It's not a pleasant story for a podcast. So then I like sold the jewelry because it was just like, this isn't worth it.
Oh no.
This is too stressful. So yeah, kind of just like, for my friends and family who can't go on the trips that I want to go on, I just pay for everyone to come with me. Which is really fun. So yeah, that's kind of my main splurge is just the people I love experiencing the things that I want to experience.
Great.
Yeah.
So this podcast is also for anyone who wants to write a song or be an artist or be like you. How can they be more like you?
Well, I mean, it's here's the weird thing about me, knocking on wood. Like my mental health is really, really great. And always has been, which is not, most creative people do not have that good fortune. So I always have a really hard time giving advice to people because most people who are great songwriters or artists, there's depression, there's anxiety, there's all these things, other things to overcome, where I am so knocking on wood because I'm very grateful for it. I do not take it for granted at all. I was just born with my mental health being very much in check.
That's great.
So I feel like an asshole giving advice to people about how to get into the business or how to hustle because most of the things that creative people have to overcome, I never had to. But I guess one funny piece of advice I can give, which I do actually believe, don't date, don't have relationships. It's a waste of time. It's just.
What do you mean?
If you're looking to achieve greatness, just cut that thing.
Like stay single?
Stay single. All my success happened when I got single.
Are you single now?
Was single as fuck.
Wow.
I'm a really good friend. I'm a really good child.
But not polyamorous.
What's that?
Not polyamorous.
No, I mean, I'm not celibate by any means, but I don't have traditional relationships, right? Because it just seems insane. It seems.
And for the songwriting, I bet every time you see somebody, you
fall in love all over
material
again.
for 10 other songs.
Yeah. No, and also for me, when I was younger, in my 20s, I really and teens, only wrote songs about my life, things that were happening.
Yeah.
Now, I'm normally helping younger people channel and focus their very raw feelings. So I don't really need. But
you would say that authenticity in a song is like most of your songs, it seems, come from real things that happen in real life to either you or the artist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so for the most part, it's happening. Good Luck Babe is maybe my only hit I've ever had that I can really relate to. The rest of them, I'm very proud of them and I love them. And I'm so grateful I got to help other people tell their stories.
Right.
Maybe Halsey's Bad at Love, which I co-wrote. I can relate to that. But that's kind of it. The rest of them, I really don't have any.
It's not you in there. It's
not me.
Not your journal.
Exactly.
Still amazing songs to be proud of, but it's not.
Yeah. It's someone else's journal.
Yeah, which is great too. If it's urgent at the time, it makes good songs.
I think it's such a gift to be able to help someone else tell their story.
Yeah,
and because I am removed from it, I can be that sort of bird's eye view of like, is the random listener, someone just flipping through the channels, can they relate to this?
Yeah.
Because it's not my story. I'm helping you tell your story.
Yeah.
So if I need to understand it so that the world can understand it.
And now you're covering all sides. Like you're not just haven't been an artist, a songwriter, a performer, a label boss,
a publisher.
Like what haven't you done yet? Or like
I need a Broadway hit. I have a couple amazing TV projects in the works that hopefully I would love like a huge hit TV show. I want a hit in everything.
TV shows, yeah.
TV show,
Are you
movie,
acting too?
Broadway. No, I'm not an actor.
Don't want to do that.
No, that seems insane.
But there's got to be some more advice you can give. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think collaboration. I think would be the best advice to give.
Agree.
That I wrote every song alone from when I was like 15 until 29, 30, 31 maybe.
Yeah.
And then 100%
I would dabble. By yourself.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. All the songs for the band, for the most part, I wrote alone.
Wow.
And once I started co-writing, I mean, you were one of my first co-writes, I think.
Really?
Yeah, maybe second or third.
I loved this song. It was about a crazy fan and it just felt real. It felt like, wow, this could really happen.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I had a fan like showing up to my house. I can't remember. It was so long ago since I read. But anyway, once I started co-writing full time, there's something I always say to people, even if you decide that you hate it, like do at minimum like 20 co-writes before you give up on it, because you will learn so much about yourself as a writer. You will learn what you're really good at. You'll learn what you're bad at, right? Because the second you get in rooms with people who are, I'm very confident in my melody writing if it's on the alternative side of things. If we're doing like down the middle pop, I should not be leading the way melodically. I wouldn't have been able to accept that about myself until enough co-writes and you write with someone and these melodies just fall out of their face without thinking.
Yeah.
And you're like, that already sounds like the fucking radio.
Yeah.
How did you do that? And then instead of being down on myself, I'm like, oh, great. So let's just, you and I keep writing together. I'll like push things a little more to the left, a little more alternative. I'll really slam the lyric, but you just keep writing these unbelievable, pop melodies.
Right.
So I think collaboration is the most important thing. Even if you decide that you hate it, which I don't think you will. And if you do hate collaborating, it's probably your fault. You're probably being too egotistical. You're probably, or it's the wrong collaborators. But if you try enough, that's why I say at least do 20 co-writes, because then if you really hate it after 20, then you can stop. But
and do you feel your sessions, is there a bit of a pattern or a process or a certain way how your sessions unfold?
For me, I would say 90% of them start with me having a conversation with either the artist or a co-writer who is normally a lot younger than me.
So you mostly never like here's a track, right to the track.
Very rare. It's only like if like the artist is like, I love this track that a friend sent me. Can we please write to this track?
Yeah.
But I will still then have a conversation with them about what are you going through? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And almost always I find the title or at least the main lyric or the starting point from something they said exactly. I take like an exact thing they said and make that the song, because then that way they feel so heard and they feel so connected to it. Because as someone who was an artist, and I wasn't my band wasn't massive, but we were big enough that we had to play the same songs for years. I had to answer the same questions in interviews for years.
Yeah.
That I know that if the artist doesn't fully love this,
it's gonna die somewhere along the road.
It's gonna die somewhere, and especially nowadays. You know, back in the day, there's all the famous stories of this artist hated that song, but we all knew it was a hit, so we shoved it down radio's throat, and the world loved it. Those days are over.
Yeah.
If the artist if they don't love it enough to post about that motherfucking song 100 times. It's not a hit.
It's the time of the independent artist now.
It is. It's like, because even major label artists, they have to behave like indie artists to get from like, if being a superstar is at 10.
Yeah.
Even on a major label, the artist has to get themselves like from 1 to 6. And then the label can get you from 6 to 10. But if the artist doesn't believe in the song enough to post about it, it's over.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's, even more than ever, I think my skill of making sure the artist believes in the song and connects to the song is really helpful.
So there's different ways, like talking to all these different amazing writers. Some writers think you should listen to a lot of other people's work and then see how does your work compare to them.
Yeah.
And then there are some, like myself included, where I say I don't listen to anyone else's work because it doesn't inspire me in a way that I would be original in doing authentically my own things.
Yeah.
What do you listen to in your own time?
I listen to like Ethel Cain is my favorite new artist. She's been around for she's not brand new, but a couple years.
I have to listen to her. Yeah.
She's truly unbelievable. And then I listen to I love like folk music. I love like Ethel's like, I wouldn't call her folk by any means. It's like alternative. I mean, I can't even call it alternative rock, but it's. I love Phoebe Bridgers, who I think is an alternative folk artist for sure. So for me, it's like real storytellers. I've never listened to pop music, and I always know if I have written a song that I want to listen to a lot, it's not a hit because I don't like hit songs. Like, mainstream songs are not songs that I have ever gravitated towards, except maybe in the 90s because alternative was pop at the time. Or I think, Chapel, I listened to her music, even the songs I didn't write, because she's definitely on the alternative side of pop.
She had a record out 2017 that blew me away. I discovered
amazing.
That after I heard the current stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
No, she's amazing. And so she's, I think, the closest to like pop that I would ever listen to.
Wow.
I love King Princess, who's a good friend of mine. I'm a huge, huge fan of her music. I just alternative singer songwriter stuff is what I listen to.
That's great. Do you read books?
I read a lot of books.
What's your recent book that you're?
Most recent book is it's not new at all, but I just read The Stand by Stephen King. I love post-apocalyptic dystopian fiction. And so my two favorite authors are Octavia E. Butler and Emily St. John Mandel. So I normally read books written by women for the most part. I just much more relate to like the feminine point of view. But whenever I'm like looking for a new dystopian or a new post-apocalyptic book, I'll just like Google best books in that genre. And Stephen King's The Stand always comes up. And obviously he's a legend for a reason. So I was like, all right, I'll finally read a book. And it's brilliant.
And do you read before going to bed? Or what's your like typical reading time?
Yeah, I read every single night before going to bed, until basically I fall asleep. So maybe sometimes that's a half an hour, sometimes it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then like whenever I have time off, that's my hobby. My hobby is reading, which does inspire me a lot. I like always jot down phrases that I love. I always jot down things that just really blow me away, and I never ever steal them because that would be creepy. But it is at this point in my life, I'm much more inspired by fiction and words inside of fiction than I am by music.
Yeah. If you could change 3 things in the world, what would it be?
If I could change 3 things in the world, I mean, I don't think humanity can survive social media. So I would probably, I don't think we can delete social media, but I think social media needs to be looked at deeply.
We both grew up in a time when there wasn't social media.
Exactly.
And there wasn't even cell phones. You'd have to go around.
I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 22, 23.
Yeah, imagine you'd have to ring at people's doors and see, do you have time to to spend time with me?
Yeah. I don't think humanities can survive capitalism, but that's a much larger conversation.
100% agree with that one.
So those are 2 things I'd like to change, but that's going to be tough. And it's also tough because I'm a hypocrite too, because I participate in social media.
Yeah.
I am motivated by the capitalist structure that we all grew up inside. So I know, while I say that I want to change these things, that I'm still participating deeply.
And you've been to Washington. You've also done help with politics, right? For songwriters.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a few words about that too?
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah. How about number 3? The third thing I would change is that songwriters actually get respected in this shit show of business.
Oh, I love that.
So when I first started having hits, 2014, 2020, labels would start any song they thought was good, they would start it at radio. And songwriters still get paid very well on radio.
True.
Now, radio is the last stop.
We got to mention, though, as well, that songwriters, like the copyright, gets a lot on the radio, but the recording...
Right. So now
missed out on the radio.
Radio is the last stop for a song.
Now
so you can have a song with 1 billion streams, and for whatever reason the label didn't take it to radio, or it's an indie artist who doesn't have the infrastructure to go to radio, but that song still has 1 billion streams. Since we don't get paid from streaming, and sure, we get paid a tiny bit, it's not enough to even discuss or talk about. It's nothing. Since we don't get paid from streaming, so many songwriters in this new generation are making nothing.
Let's break it down one more time. Let's say you have 1 million streams on your song. And let's say, A, you are self-releasing, B, you're on a record label and they have to recoup first. And then as a songwriter, how much do you end up with 1 million streams?
So, well, if you're a songwriter, so you're not the artist,
you're just
you
a
don't
songwriter.
own the master, right? You do not participate in the recording side. You only participate in the publishing side. 1 million streams, I don't know the exact number, but it's nothing. I'll say this. I have songs with like 300 million streams. 300 million.
Yeah.
And they didn't go to radio.
Which is a complete success for any independent artist.
Complete success.
Like, wow, you've made it.
And I've maybe made like max $7,000 on that.
Yeah, that's
on
unbelievable.
300 million streams. And that's just on Spotify, right? Because Apple doesn't show you how many, blah, blah. So just on Spotify, 300 million streams, and I get $7,000.
But at the same time, the
Spotify's
artist
made a gajillion.
Yeah.
The artist has made a lot. The label's made a lot.
Yeah.
And me, the person who wrote the song, has made almost nothing.
So what's the percentage, again, on streaming that is allocated for songwriters and publishers?
I don't know the exact percentage. Do you know?
Is it like 15% or something?
I think it's 15%. It's
But it should be half, right?
It should be half. It's
so how do we get
insane.
from 15% to half?
And then when you think about 15% of that, and then there's your co-writers, and then there's your publishers, and then there's all managers and lawyers
Yeah.
and business managers and all these people on your team that you need to actually function this business.
So could it be that streaming is more of a remainder of selling records, selling downloads, selling physical CDs versus, when it should actually be more like radio where you just listen to something? Because on radio, songwriters get, I don't know, is it like 100% of the income or like
pretty much
the labels don't get anything, right?
Well,
it's just 100% and suddenly we get 15%.
Yeah.
But it's only because of the origin of streaming comes from downloads instead of radio.
Yeah.
But we're listening more like listening to radio, right?
Yeah. No, it's literally criminal what's happening to songwriters. And I feel very good talking about it because I am lucky enough that I had my first 6 years of hits when everything was going to radio.
Yeah.
So I'm not fighting for myself. I'm good. I can retire today if I want. I don't want to because I love to work and I love music.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fighting for the next generation of songwriters. These people who didn't get their big radio hit, who didn't get 10 radio. They're hit songwriters, but these songs aren't going to radio.
Yeah. I mean, surely it's an evolution. Surely this is a snapshot in time and in 5-10 years it'll be somehow figured out.
I think it has to be figured out. And if it doesn't, what I'm worried about is that if it'll get figured out when like most songwriters have quit because it just is not survivable right now. It's not, if you didn't already make your money pre-COVID, you're so fucked right now that like I have so many brilliant young songwriters who are just quitting because it's like, so in their catalog, they have like 2 billion streams and they have $0.
Crazy.
It's just like, it's really despicable. And what concerns me is that we're fighting tech companies and they don't actually care about music. They don't care about songwriters. They don't care about us.
Yeah.
So that's what scares me is that labels could help us. Labels could start giving songwriters master points. There's ways that people who do care about music could step up to the plate. But in terms of fighting, using the government to help us fight, we're fighting tech companies.
Yeah.
And now we have an administration who just like can't stop jerking off to billionaires. So he's not going to care about us. You know what I mean? Like
start to think about it. Yeah.
It's
going to be
darkness. This administration's not going to fight for songwriters. They don't care. They worship tech companies. We're trash to them. So it's scary. But so hopefully our own industry, if labels can start cutting songwriters into masters, if artists can put their feet down on our behalf, there's hope. But I have very little hope that tech companies are going to change.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have another little segment.
Great.
Called Guess That Song. And I play a melody and you got to guess it with as few notes as possible.
Okay.
So let's see.
Do, 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 do. No clue.
Is it? I think it is.
No clue.
No.
Is it one of my songs?
No.
Okay, good. I was like, that would be so embarrassing.
That's all there is. And then there is marimbas.
That's ringing a faint bell, but no, I don't know.
Na 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 na.
Yep.
Na.
Couldn't tell you what it is though. No clue.
No. Okay. The title of it's a country. It's actually a continent.
No clue.
How many continents do we have?
I mean, I'm not going to guess because I'm going to get it wrong and I just don't need to do that.
Africa.
Okay. That was what I was going to guess, but.
Okay. I'll do another one. Wait. Here it is.
No clue.
I'll give you more.
You're talking to someone who really only cares about lyrics.
No,
I'm going to fail
one you know.
every part of it.
This is one song that defied all laws of physics of songwriting. I'll play you more.
Okay.
And it's slow. It starts slow and it gets faster.
No clue.
No, I'll play more.
Oh, Come On, Eileen?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Isn't that an incredible song?
Amazing song.
Like it gets faster.
Yeah.
It turns into something else. It's a street. It's a party before you know it.
I love that you're like, both of these songs are like what, early 80s? Both of them?
They're both songs that really, I think, move the needle.
Yeah.
Of songwriting. All right, here's one.
Okay. Over the Rainbow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Everybody gets that one.
Yeah.
And that's 2 notes.
Yeah.
After 2 notes, we all know the song. I mean
Harold Arlen's a master of all masters.
that is so incredible.
Yeah.
And it's not even a pop song. It's not even a song we sing these days so much.
Right.
That's the bar.
Yeah. It's crazy. What is that interval?
An octave.
It's just an octave, right?
Yeah. That is crazy.
The fact that we all just know an octave is wild.
Okay, here's another one.
Mm-mm. Oh. Dun, 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 dun. Don't worry. Be happy.
Be happy.
Yep.
What a great song too.
Great song.
Acapella and
Acapella masterpiece.
masterpieces. Yeah. All right. Maybe a last one.
Okay.
That's from someone who I think is one of the best in writing, performing, vocal.
Yeah.
Um,
Dun, 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 dun. Go again. Mm-mm. No. No. It's not happening.
We are the champions.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Freddie
you go.
Mercury.
I mean, the
I saw
best.
Freddie Mercury when I was maybe 16
No way.
with false backstage passes. We got in and saw Queen, and it was one of the most pivotal experiences.
How were you hooked up backstage?
We had a time when we were just back. There weren't printers around or so. We just had these little letters you could rub off onto a little colorful plastic foil. We'd put in big VIP, Queen, special access, and then walk through with a poker face. And we got into every concert for 3 years.
No.
Yes.
A criminal.
Yeah, I saw Michael Jackson, Janet, everybody at the time.
Shut the fuck
That was incredible.
up. What would you do backstage? Would you just like
No, we just,
behave?
Yeah, behave very well. We would just act like we're part of the band and really quickly walk through a VIP entrance at the back, and we saw everybody.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Where did you grow up?
Munich, Germany.
Munich. Wow.
Yes.
Crazy. So you would just go to every concert, you and your friends.
Every big stadium concert.
Wow.
So Supertramp, Michael Jackson 3 times.
Would you buy like normal tickets, or
No.
you wouldn't
Couldn't
pay,
afford a
wouldn't
normal
pay a
ticket.
dime, and you would
Could
just
never afford a ticket.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a good time. I don't know, probably good. Okay, a last thing. I'm going to give you a 1-word prompt,
Okay.
and you can elaborate on what comes to your mind.
Okay.
Spirituality.
I don't want to be offensive.
No. You do you.
Erewhon.
Explain.
It's a really amazing but overpriced grocery store.
It's like, look how rich I am. I can shop at everyone.
Yeah, and it's just like,
It's like-
even though it's delicious,
Like this should be $2.99, but it's 10.
yeah.
Why?
I think I don't want to offend anyone, so I'm not. I think that
You could offend everyone.
that answer is probably offensive enough to a lot of people. So I'll just
But what does it have to do with spirituality?
everything
Why?
overpriced and fake. I was trying to avoid it, Toby, and you pushed me to the edge.
All right. How about authenticity?
Really fun. Yeah.
Wow,
think-
you got good answers.
Yeah, authenticity
They're like
is
100%
really fun.
not what I expect.
I like this game. Keep going. This is a good game.
Okay. Passion.
Passion. Well, the first thing I think of is there's an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical called Passions that was one of his first shows to not be a blockbuster hit, but has a couple amazing songs.
Mm-hmm. All right. Self-love.
Self-love. I think the first thing that comes to mind is masturbation.
Yeah. And inspiration.
The first thing that came to my mind was just everywhere. then like second thing was like conversation. I find most of my inspiration in conversation, whether it's in a session where like the conversation is I'm intentionally looking for inspiration, or if it's just while talking to friends.
Happiness. Like what are your happiest moments? What's your happy place?
I'm pretty happy most times. I am maybe the happiest when I either like to be like working a lot or not working at all. I don't do well. I find the only times that I feel my version of unhappy is if it's like, oh, I did like 3 sessions this week and no meetings. It was just like a chill week. That drives me crazy. So either working like 12 hours every single day or not working at all.
So you take real time off as well?
Rarely. Like maybe like, 3 days here or there. I do go, like friends and I go to Provincetown in Cape Cod every summer for like 10 days.
Wow.
And then like COVID, the only thing that could stop my workaholism was being a good citizen. So like I did not work for like the first year and a half of COVID. Did not work at all.
It was a game changer. It's like everything was questioned and everything was like put up, like you can change this. You don't have to do this. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to do anything. Yeah,
and everyone thought I was going to like go insane not working because I do love to work so much. But I learned a lot about myself that actually I'm okay not working if nothing is happening.
Yeah. That was a good lesson for everybody. I mean, for some people it was death and devastating and terrible, but
definitely.
For a lot of people it was just reconsider all your priorities.
Yeah. Obviously there's a lot of privilege to say that I enjoyed COVID, but I did. But my parents moved in with me, and we all just lived together.
You didn't have this mansion yet?
No, did not live here. We lived in the middle of nowhere. We moved for like a year and a half to the mountains.
Wow.
And I would like walk my dog for an hour every day and never see another human.
Amazing.
Just be in nature, and which again,
are you a nature person? Do you love nature?
I love nature. I didn't when I was younger. I like thought I would like live in New York forever, and work brought me here in like 2012, and love it here because now that I get older, I really love nature. And LA is one of the few cities where, if you take the time, there's a lot of nature.
What are your favorite hikes or nature places you go to in LA?
The ocean is so beautiful. Malibu is amazing. There's a hike that friends and I do that's not even like a known hike. It's just if you go up Barrington Ave on the west side and just keep driving until it stops. There's like a fake hike there that's not even long. It's like maybe 30 minutes up and 30 minutes back, but there's almost never anyone there, and it's really beautiful. But now I just said it, so it's going to be overrun.
So if you enjoyed this show, please subscribe and like and review. If you give us 5 stars, I'd be super happy, and there'll be more to come. And thank you so much. This was incredible.
Thank you.